Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Serving Nerve, where we talk about whatever we want, and today we're going to be going through more fat acceptance cringe compilations, so I hope y'all enjoy, and let's just get into it. Okay, bypassing everything because you're just jiggling around on camera. I like that swimsuit, the one in the yellow. It reminds me of something. Like a 50s cooking book or something like that. Whatever, I don't know. I'm just losing my mind. Actually, there are like weird things all over this cooking book. It looks like I don't know. Looks like an acid trip. But I'm kind of into it. When parents talk about their kids' weight, I can actually level with this a little bit. I've had a lot of people in my family very weight obsessed, so I feel like in part, like that can lead to also some influence, but I think it's absolutely terrible if you have a parent who's like talking about your weight in front of you, particularly either to you or to other people with you there. I feel like depending on your age, like if you're a little kid, it will kind of affect you negatively, especially if they treat it like it's a big deal or it's a negative thing. I do think this can lead to some really negative influence in future and can kind of build a very negative connotation in your mind with weight and your feelings and what parents feel about you and the negative perception they have of you pertaining to your weight. Saying that, there is a difference between that and when you hit adulthood, your weight being your responsibility and your weight being out of control. There is a threshold here that we do need to understand. And also, your parents should be concerned about your weight when you are a kid if you're morbidly obese or something. They should try and give more positive reinforcement to change for the better. They shouldn't try and really push it like it's a negative thing or try and put you on very severe restrictive diets. I think the best protocol for an obese kid is to try and give them as much physical activity as possible, giving them lots of creative fun things to do, and then enforcing a very healthy lifestyle in your entire household, not just on them. Don't make them feel like they're left out of getting to enjoy the things that other kids have or the other things that your family members are eating. You need to make a change for the whole household if you want that positive reinforcement and to make it feel like it's not just a problem with them and that's why they have to eat a specific way versus their other siblings or something like that. In general, you have to make a change for the whole household and the lifestyles of all the kids, even if just one kid is obese, because obviously you're not feeding that kid right, but you might not also feed the other kids correctly. It's just difficult to gauge. It's very individualized on the basis of your intervention and what you need, but I think it's actually really important to try and give kids, particularly kids, a really healthy lifestyle, give them a lot of introduction to healthy fruits and vegetables, a variety of foods, and not make them feel like they're restrictive, give them the abundance of a healthy lifestyle, basically. And my mother, bless her soul, she did a great job with that. When I was a kid, I ate basically every fruit and vegetable you can think of. Anything we had, me and my siblings all ate. We were a little picky with certain things, but we grew out of that pickiness because it was introduced consistently in our diets. So I feel like the more you give your kids, the more they're willing to expand and be open to trying new things. I remember the only thing I really wasn't into when I was a kid was cooked carrots, and even then I'd still eat them here and there. But anyways, I feel like there are just really positive things you can do to help your kids, and I don't think just talking about their weight to them or in front of them when they're very young is healthy, or around other people, talking to other people and then having them in the space when you're talking about, oh, it's a problem, my kid's out of control with their weight, whatever. I think that might give the kid a negative perception and kind of mess with their head. So it's important to note. Man, that's so disappointing, getting stuck in a chair. Getting stuck in a chair, my dude. That's psychotic. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk. It looks incredibly uncomfortable. I don't know if this is a weird form of fetish content, oh, I'm so big, I'm stuck in a chair, but I think this is actually maybe legitimate. A lot of people can have trouble fitting into places and then getting stuck in those places. And I feel if you actually can't break out of that chair, that sucks. But saying that, sometimes I've seen these and it's kind of fetishy, so I don't know. Anyways, let's just move on. I'm just gonna read this comment before we go through because it flashes really quick on screen and is hard to read. I just learned this year BMI is based on white men in the 1830s. Didn't even use other bodies. Yeah, and also, I just have to point this out. Then BMI probably should be lower than calculated. I'm just saying because most white men on the basis of BMI will actually have a higher level of muscle mass than women. So women should actually have a smaller BMI than what is calculated, or their body fat might be significantly higher, and it might be unhealthily high even if they fit into a healthy BMI range. And then also, at certain weights, certain races can also have issues with developing certain diseases at higher BMIs. So we're not even calculating for that either. So BMI might actually need to be lower than what it's calculated for on the basis of obesity, morbid obesity, and what is considered an unhealthy BMI. I know in certain foreign countries, they actually do have BMI considered lower, I think in Japan. So yeah, certain countries have different BMIs. Sorry that you can't see it on screen. I'm just gonna list it off right here. Certain Asian countries have different definitions of body mass index. So in China, a BMI of 24 or higher is considered overweight, and 28 or higher is considered obese. In India, 23 or higher is considered overweight, and 27 or higher is considered obese. In Japan, 23 or higher is considered overweight, and 25 or higher is considered obese. See, other countries actually seem to have calculated for this based on their population and their disease rates, whereas when we base ourselves off BMI, we just look, the standard BMI scale, 25 and 30. So we might actually need to lower the BMI so that we can calculate for additional races and inclusivity in that regard. It's very interesting. I feel like, ironically though, the people who are in these compilations, for some reason, they're not thinking about that. Like, instead, they're like, oh, BMI is just racist, or BMI doesn't calculate for it, so it should be higher, or BMI doesn't matter, when it might matter even more. So I think it's kind of interesting. We should definitely keep an open mind in regards to this. I'm not always here to say that BMI is perfect. I think it could use some calculation, but I theorize that it actually should be lower to calculate for all races and also for females in the mix as well. Or maybe having two different standards of BMI for females and males. That might also be a useful thing. Or in general, maybe also focusing on a combination of body mass index as well as body fat percentage and genetics, just to make sure that you can be as healthy as possible, given your genetic coding, your gender, your weight, etc. And also, this doesn't even calculate like lifestyles into the mix as well, with like building muscle, leaning out, being heavier, but also being lean. And a lot of this is just not calculated into BMI. So I think we should have like a bit of an open conversation about it, leave it open. But I do think it should be recalculated and actually lowered if we're going to be all inclusive for it, ironically.
You're absolutely right. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why BMI is full of shit. 1, the mathematician who created it, Adolf Quetelet, said BMI, the formula he derived, should not be used to indicate the level of fatness in an individual. He made a quick and dirty formula up to help study fatness in populations as a whole. 2, it's scientifically nonsensical. Why are you squaring someone's height in relation to their weight? 3, BMI ignores waist size.
It's just to get an idea of your overall mass, so I think it makes sense. I just think it's kind of an inferior formula if we don't calculate like other BMIs into the mix. Like if you look at other countries' BMIs, they also calculate for their own populations. So that's something we should kind of take into account as well.
Researchers and doctors agree that waist size is a good indicator of cardiovascular health, not BMI.
That actually can be quite true because your waist to hip ratio will show how much like fat you have on your subcutaneous layer as well for most people. Like if you have a very like large waistline, you have a lot of body fat around your waist, it can be indicative of a risk for metabolic disease. So that is also understandable. I don't even disagree entirely with this person. I think their idea though is that BMI is just all bullshit and like there's no truth to BMI, or there's no like way we can use BMI to benefit us, when in reality on a population basis BMI can be quite useful. We just need to be a little bit more involved with how we calculate for all of the health variables if we're looking at individuals on an individualized basis.
Number 4, BMI isn't even a fixed number. In 1998, the cutoff point between overweight and normal was reduced by 2.7 points. Overnight, millions of Americans became overweight.
Yeah, and also in other countries, it's even lower. So, like, I don't know, man. So, in 1998, they even knew that the BMI scale was too high for most of the population, so they had to lower it. And other countries also have it lower than that. So, I think it's quite indicative, again, that, you know, it was too high, which makes sense because the formula was composed with, again, men who have a higher level of bone density, muscle mass, lower fat mass than a lot of the population, compared to like females or something like that as well.
Was reduced by 2.7 points. Overnight, millions of Americans became overweight. Number 5, it doesn't take into account the physiological differences in people's bodies, rendering a lot of people who shouldn't be overweight as overweight.
That is understandable. I can level with this person. I think they have a decent idea. I just think they're misinterpreting some of the logic that can come with calculating for BMI. But they're not entirely wrong or anything like that. I just think that they're not really thinking about the other variables, and that somehow, like, the categorization is, you know, the problem, and, like, it should be higher or something. I think when all these people are complaining about BMI, they think that it's bullshit, and the number should be actually higher and not lower, or they aren't taking into account anything, so women should have a higher body fat percentage than men, which is actually true because women do need a higher level of body fat percentage than men to survive, to bear children, etc. But I feel like there's just a misinterpretation here on, like, the overall logic that needs to be applied when we're calculating for BMI. That's just my opinion. When you realize that correcting your pelvic tilt automatically makes your stomach flatter, ass fatter, and core stronger, and improves posture. It's actually true. I have a terrible pelvic tilt. I actually have my hips so bent forward a lot of the time when I walk. It's honestly kind of disappointing. I really need to work on my posture, and then I just slouch in front of a computer screen the other 90% of my day. So I'm pretty bad with the pelvic tilt and whatnot.
This reminds me of something.
Babe, you're not fat. That's just your pelvic.
I mean, it's kind of true, though. It's not about being fat or anything like that. It's your overall posture, your alignment of your spine, the way that you're pushing your abdominal cavity out. And also, like, what's wrong with this, even thinking you're fat when you look this way with, like, a bad posture or something like that? I feel like, actually, a lot of the time, when I talk to people, even if they're really skinny or whatever, if they talk about their posture, they're like, I look so sloppy with my posture. I look like a hunchback with my posture and whatnot, and I can level with that entirely because I'm not even obese, and I think my posture makes me look atrocious a lot of the time. I look like a little bedroom-dwelling incel. But, you know, the reality is, I feel like complaining about this and being like, oh, you're associating bad posture even with being fat, and you're just fat-phobic, and that's why you're worried about your posture. It's like, bro, I don't know, do your thing, but I think it's just silly. I think it's just silly. I don't think we need to really worry about, like, dismantling the fat-phobic perception people have of themselves with their bad posture, and oh my god, me having a flatter stomach is fat phobic, or me wanting a flatter stomach is fat phobic. I just think it's silly. When you wake up in the morning, I'm not gonna lie, my guys, I have not been waking up in the morning lately. I've been sleeping in. I'm thinking of just taking a cut from work today if I can get away with it, just so that I can get, like, caught up with some of the other things I need to get done, because I am so behind in every capacity work-wise. I need to catch up. These other bitches aren't even close. Glorifying obesity. Man, I should get one of those shirts. I should make one. I should make one called Glorifying Idiocy. I think that'd really match the vibe here.
Today I think I'm gonna share those with my dinner.
This girl is a notorious, like, fetish woman, by the way. She's notoriously, like, a fat fetishist. Like, she has, like, a fat fetish community online. I actually think I saw this woman. I'm not trying to, like, speak for the circumstance. Maybe I'm, like, remembering the wrong lady. But I'm pretty sure this woman was in a documentary about feederism and, like, being fed, like, excessive amounts of food and becoming severely overweight and that getting guys off. And her having, like, an online community and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure this is the same chick. So this is definitely fat fetish content.
I already started snacking on it when I was doing the pictures. But I think I can let you see the rest of it. I hope all this goes to my belly and hips.
Like, well, now it's obvious that it's fat fetish content, so okay. Yeah, I got it. We get it, my lady. This shit's so cringe. I'm so sorry. Me watching somebody, like, slap their belly going like, oh yeah, give me that taco, baby. Yeah. It's so fucking weird, man. It's so weird. It's like, it's definitely it's definitely indecent. Like, you should have an OnlyFans for this or something. Alright, well, that's the end of that. I don't think I can handle more shaking on camera at the moment. What do you guys think you would do if you had a kid that was obese? Would you let them become this online and give them a TikTok account? Or would you try and give them, like, a healthy influence in their lives? Like, what would you do if you actually had an obese kid Like, how would you change that? What's your perception of that, my people? Anyways, that's the video. Tell me what you think in the comments below, and I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you all next time, and it has been lovely. See you later.